A very good morning, students. Today we will study Robert Crosser's poem I am Getting Old Now. As all of you know, this Robert Crosser occupies an illustrious position in the gallery of the 20th century Canadian literature. He is a poet, novelist, editor, and teacher, all rolled in one. He is renowned for his adept use of postmodern technique in his writing, and the best example of his two poems, Birthday and Second I Am Getting Old Now. Both these poems spin around mother-son relationships. So, first of all, I'm going to read out this poem and then we will discuss. So, I am getting old now. I can tell a dream. A lot of my mothers. In my dream last night, she was in the garden over the hill behind this house. She was standing. Now the poet tells us that last night how he saw a dream, and in his dream he saw his deceased mother who was with him in the garden. The garden over the hill behind their house, and he saw his mother there standing. Then I was playing in the pea vines. We were both happy. Neither of us would move. In the dream, perhaps I was playing, I was kneeling to pick peas. So I was playing in pea vines. Poet was in his dream. The poet was playing in the pea vines, and he and his mother both were very happy, and none of them moved. They remain in the dream, and he was playing and kneeling to pick the peas. My mother held in her apron the peas, and his mother was having the peas in her apron. We had picked together. She was standing still. I knew she was watching me. And the poet said that both of them collected the peas, and his mother was standing there. He knew that she was watching him. She was standing Negro, like a bad wit. She liked to say that pleased her, and she told him that she was seeing him, and she has grown him up like a weed. This is one part of the poem where the poet reminiscences he memorized his mother, and this first part of this poem, as we know, his poems are innovative in their themes and technique, and he was written diverse experimental poem and is positioned greatly in the seats of avant-garde poetry of the 20th century. So digging into the past appears as a recurring imagery in most of his poems, which are often interrelated with the notions, myth, and memory. And as we know, this poem, uh, he present his memories about his mother. Here, the place of photograph in the poem is replaced by by the dream of the poet. The poet begins the poem by the statement, "I am getting old. I can tell." He dreams a lot about his mother. In the last dream, both the poet and his mother were in the garden behind their house. The poet first assumes that he is playing in the pea vines, but later rejects this assumption and says that he was kneeling to pick peas. His mother collected the peas in her apron. According to the poet, both were happy, static. He later emphasized that his mother is still watching him grow like a bad weed. The poet then changes the tone of the poem, engaging philosophical rumination about aging and death. And he says he is not happy with his agility. He is calm and serene. And then we come to the next part of the poem, that is the second part. I'm getting old now. Now he says, I am getting old. I wouldn't say I am happy. At that time when he was just a child, he was very happy, but now he says, I cannot say I am a happy, serene and advocate bird. Death is not quite the enemy it was, and he considered death as an enemy. It is kind of watching death begins to seem a friend that one has almost forgotten, then remembers again. In my dream last night, I was playing in the garden. So he says that death begins to seem a friend that one has almost forgotten. Death, he considers death as a friend. He became very philosophical. He is calm and serene. He doesn't consider death as an enemy. Death to poet was like a friend who is almost forgotten but remembers them again. Death, though invisible, is an inevitable truth which is always present with life begins. It represents a form of trace where if life is the core, death is sort of essence. The present life of the poet is therefore a sign which will be completely completed by death, which according to Derrida's notion can be regarded as the absent presence. Maybe it because of the philosophical mooring, the poet accepts the inevitability of death calmly, without being scared of it seeing an enemy. The poet concludes the poem by repeating, in my garden last night I was playing in the garden. So the poem intertwines the notion of the age, time, and death. The poet's mother was silently watches him growing, can be regarded as the metaphor of time that witnessed everything. In one sense, it was his dream about his mother's that persuaded him to reunite about his age and death. In the other sense, it was his unconscious thought about his mother that takes the shape of dream and subsequently leads to his rumination. The poem also oscillates between different time frames, the past and present. This again implies the significance of the time in the poem. So, in the poem, the poet relates the dream similar to the collection of peas. The poet dreams about his past, and both his mother and poets are still in the garden, but he suggests that though everything looks motionless, the poet's age is not in a freezed state. He is growing and his mother is watching him. So even when everything appears unchangeable, there is something that is changing every day. All the activity appear in a stationary state in the dream, which the poet emphasized by adding that he is not playing but kneeling to pick peas. But the growing poet and the watching mother implies invisible motion. The dream is something that happened in his sleep and it was warded off when he is awake, and hence it is a matter of past. The mother and the poet's childhood, which appears in the poet's dream, again another matter of the past, but it is these steps about the past and persuade him to ponder about his age in the present. So I think all of you have got the idea of this poem. So thank you